Used cleverly, sales promotions can be a smart way to boost flagging market share or clear out excess stock. But getting promotions wrong can be disastrous for your bottom line and your brand, no matter how famous it is.
Hoover is the brand that entered the English vocabulary, the word synonymous with vacuuming. Unfortunately, since the 1990s, it's also been inextricably linked to a sales promotion catastrophe, the free flight fiasco.
Who would have thought that 2 free air tickets could bring one of Britain's biggest brands to its knees? With multi-million-pound losses, a full-scale customer revolt, and even a bizarre carjacking incident. Not Hoover. In the early 90s, Hoover's dominance of the British home cleaning market was under threat, as customers turned to newer, more fashionable brands for their electrical goods.
Hoover Europe was facing severe problems. It had lost a lot of money in the first 9 months of the year, so pressure were on the management to do better and to shift a lot of the stock that was being piled up in warehouses.
You either take the decision to scrap, which could be very, very expensive, or you have some mechanism for getting a promotion going which increases the volume of sales.
Hoover had a history of using promotions to boost business.
What's in this Hoover-matic for you? A free Hoover steam iron with every Hoover-matic bought before December the 11th.
But it needed a catchy modern offer to attract 1990s customers. When a little-known travel agent suggested an attention-grabbing holiday promotion, the idea stuck.
A simple demonstration of what you can pick up if you spend over £100 on any Hoover product.
It looked fantastic. They convinced you that you were purchasing 2 airline tickets, not a Hoover anymore, not a washing machine, but those 2 flights. I think the catchphrase was 2 free flights, unbelievable.
We'll give you 2 return flight seats to either Rome, Vienna, Sierra Nevada, the Canary Islands, Munich or the Costa del Sol. Unbelievable.
This was before the real heyday of budget airlines, so customers were wowed by the offer of free European flights. Hoover's factory stockpiles quickly disappeared, and workers battled to keep up with demand.
The sort of favourite wedding present was a Hoover, and it was not unknown for a married couple to get anywhere between 6 and 12 Hoovers as wedding presents. However, there was no free flight vouchers with them because they'd been used by the person who'd purchased the Hoovers.
By autumn 1992, the promotion was going so well, Hoover's management approached a new travel agent to inquire about extending the offer.
They were interested in launching an American promotion, i.e. flights to the USA. The initial discussions with Hoover were very good.
Customers had been amazed by its first promotion, but Hoover's new offer would be even more incredible.
I was shocked that they would run a promotional activity where they were only asking a consumer to spend £100 to gain a reward of up to £600. It just didn't make any sense at all.
Although flights to America would be expensive, Hoover was calculating that only a small percentage of customers would ever get round to redeeming their vouchers. The projections were based on the feedback they'd had so far from the Europe offer.
We were given figures by Hoover regarding the number of people who were taking up the offer of the free flights and then the conversion into actual flights. And the numbers were very low, actually.
The new travel agent signed on the dotted line, and another unbelievable offer was born.
Spend over £100 on any Hoover product and we'll give you 2 return flight seats to either New York or Florida. 2 return flight seats. Unbelievable.
People worked out that even if you didn't want the product, the fridge or the Hoover, you could buy it and get your trip to America and you were still quids in.
I thought it was too good to be true, actually. My wife said, no, it's Hoover. They're a trusted company, good reputation. We're getting 2 free flights, so let's go for it. Buy the Hoover.
It was the deal of the decade, and Hoover's owners were delighted.
They were selling product like they'd never done before. The staff were all on overtime. In fact, one of their senior executives told me they'd never ever seen market share like that in the company's history.
It was all going so well. Within a few months, free flights had transformed Hoover from a fuddy-duddy firm trying to shift old vacuum cleaners and washing machines into a sought-after brand.
As Hoover's customers prepared to jet off across the globe, it seemed everyone was a winner. But their holiday dreams were about to be shattered.
We waited. We waited and we waited. And unfortunately, the free flights didn't come along.
In Glasgow, the Daily Record sensed a scoop. Reporter John Nairn was sent out to investigate.
I decided I would check all the airlines operating out of Glasgow Airport for America, because Hoover had said that they'd booked flights for the American offer. None of them had any bookings.
When the Daily Record printed the story, it became obvious that more than a few customers hadn't received their tickets.
Calls were coming in everywhere, from the boardroom to the canteen. At one stage, the actual circuit board in the telephone system blew up. People were turning up at the office in their dozens.
The media storm quickly took hold, but the negative publicity had an unfortunate effect.
More people realised the offer was available, and more people went along to the electrical stores and started buying Hoovers.
Hoover was now receiving 10 times the number of vouchers it had projected.
I can remember looking at Exchange and Mart at the time, and there were pages and pages of Hoovers for sale. Clearly people were going out and buying a second and third Hoover just to participate in the promotion, and that's exactly what you don't want to happen.
While new customers were eagerly sending their applications in, old customers were still waiting for a response. Retailers began to worry about Hoover's ability to deliver on its promises. Some withdrew the offer.
You're now in a situation where the stores really didn't want to stock their stuff. When you said Hoover now, they weren't thinking of vacuum cleaners anymore. They were now thinking of free flights Fiasco.
It started as a bright idea for selling vacuum cleaners. It turned into a logistical nightmare. And Hoover didn't really have the cash or the manpower to honour its promotions. Hoover's American owners had little choice but to intervene. They sacked the company's 3 top British bosses and pledged an extra £20 million to guarantee the promotion.
We had an overwhelming level of response, which we were not able to manage at the time. We are now putting in the resources to make sure that we can manage it, to make sure that those people will in fact be able to fly.
Hoover began chartering entire aeroplanes. But getting onto them still proved difficult because the travel agents were rigorously enforcing the promotion's small print.
They'd done every trick in the book to get out of it. If you wanted to fly from Gatwick, you got offered Glasgow and vice versa. So that's not encouraging you to fly, is it?
Because a number of customers were not able to fly on the precise date that they wanted, they became quite upset.
How can a company like Hoover treat us like that?
If I realised this was the outcome, I would never have bought the product in the first instance.
Well, I'm tempted to say that Hoover sucks, but I wouldn't want to give them the publicity.
I sum up Hoover's attitude as ignorance. It was men in ivory towers that really didn't want to talk to the ordinary consumer.
Harry Chishi decided it was time for Hoover to take notice. He called on customers everywhere to unite in a campaign for free flight justice.
Watchdog put my address up on the screen. Every morning the postman would turn up with like 3 sacks of mail. One day a judge would phone up, next day a professor, next minute was a pig farmer from Gloucester. We stopped counting, probably 8,000 members.
The campaigners pursued Hoover relentlessly through the courts.
Who's next? That's the point. Who is next? Get at them. Don't let the buggers grind you down.
Others took the law into their own hands, like David Dixon, whose flight tickets failed to arrive and whose new washing machine turned out to be faulty. When Hoover's repairman came to fix it, Mr. Dixon complained to him about the promotion.
And he said to me, if you think buying a washing machine is going to get you 2 free flight tickets to America, you must be an idiot. This my wife beat a hasty retreat because I think she was waiting at fireworks.
While the repairman worked on the washing machine, David Dixon took his chance for revenge. He drove a horse box in front of the Hoover van and disabled the brakes. Escape was impossible.
I went back in the house and I said to him, you think I'm an idiot, do you? He said, I do. I said, I'm not as silly as you are. He said, how do you make that out? I said, I'm not going to have to walk home, but you are.
Hoover's latest local difficulty quickly spiraled into another national news embarrassment.
Hoover aren't moving very far on this problem, but then again, neither is their van.
I decided that I'd had enough of Hoover. They were going to have to tolerate a little bit of me.
The hijack lasted 13 days, topping off what was now one of the biggest PR disasters ever. Hoover eventually got its van back. It would be far harder to recover its reputation. Only a third of the 540,000 people who applied for Hoover's promotions actually got their tickets. The episode cost the company £45 million, but the damage to its reputation was incalculable.
By all accounts, this is by far the biggest sales promotion disaster that's ever been run in the UK, probably in the world.
That was such a major snafu of epic proportions, that it resonated down the years.
Not only did free flights stain Hoover's reputation, but it made people think twice before buying its appliances.
You look like an idiot. You just look like an idiot. And the problem with that is that, if you look foolish as a company, people start to question, well, how good are you really? And therefore, how good's the product?
My observation as an onlooker and a potential competitor was that in many ways I was rather pleased. Because their focus was on marketing, not on research and development and making a better product.
The idea of a sales promotion is to be eye-catching, to attract maximum attention at minimum cost. In fact, the best ones from a company's point of view are often those that sound much better than they really are. Now Hoover, well, they got the eye-catching bit, but instead of spending a little sucking customers in, they spent millions blowing away their good name. The company was so badly tarnished by the free flights fiasco that its whole European division was sold to Italian competitor Candy. Hoover's British factories were eventually closed, ending a 50-year history.